which were selected by the Democratic Party and for a test manual recount, and they were highly Democratic precincts. As a matter of fact, they were the highest Democratic precincts in Dade County.
How many precincts are there roughly in Dade County?
About 614.
So we have 614 precincts, and Vice President Gore's campaign chose the 3 that voted most heavily for him to test to see if there was an error?
Yes. I believe the percentage was in excess of 90%.
And how many, roughly how many voters are comprised in those 3 precincts?
My recollection, it was roughly about 5,000 votes.
Total or each precinct?
Total.
All right. And after that manual count was, well, first of all, did you observe the manual count?
Yes, I did.
All right. At the end of the day, or whatever time it took, at the end of the time that the manual recount was ongoing, how many votes switched to Vice President Gore in these heavily Democratic precincts?
I believe at the end of the day, my recollection is that there were 6 votes.
And do you know whether those precincts, according to the first machine count and the machine recount, had gone for Vice President Gore by a 10-to-1 margin?
Yes, they did.
All right, sir. I'd like to now, if I could, turn your attention to the report of the results by the canvassing board on November 14th. First, let me ask you, did you in fact observe on November 14 the activities before the canvassing board in which it discussed what to do in light of the 6-vote gain by Vice President Gore as a result of looking at these 3 Democrat precincts?
Yes, sir.
And what, based only on your own observation, what did the canvassing board vote to do?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. The record speaks for itself.
The canvassing board decided by a majority vote not to go forward with a full countywide manual recount.
All right, well, we're going to talk about that in Defendant's Exhibit 61. That's what I've placed in front of you. But first, I need to understand, doesn't matter what I understand, Judge Sauls perhaps would appreciate understanding the composition of the Miami-Dade County canvassing board. Were there 3 members?
Yes, there were 3 members.
Could you name each of them?
Yes. The board consisted of Supervisor David Leahy, Judge King, County Court Judge, and Judge Miriam Lair, a County Court Judge.
All right. Was Supervisor Leahy registered to any political party?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. There's no way this witness, as much as I respect him, would know that fact.
I'll sustain his objection unless you lay a predicate.
Yes, sir. Have you determined where each of these supervisors are registered, that is, whether they're registered to a political party or not?
Yes.
How did you do that?
It was spread on the record.
All right. And you're talking about the record of the proceedings that you observed down in Dade County?
That's right.
All right. What party affiliation, if any, did Supervisor Leahy have at the time of the Miami-Dade proceedings that we're talking about in this lawsuit?
David is an independent.
All right. How about, is it Judge Lair?
Judge Lair.
What about Judge Lair?
She is an independent.
All right. Now, you mentioned that there's a county judge, Judge King. What registration or affiliation, if any, did Judge King have at the time of the events that we're talking about?
He's a Democrat.
All right. Now, let's turn, if we could. Well, first let me ask you, on this 2-to-1 vote, that was 2-to-1, I believe you said, against doing a full manual recount of all the ballots in Dade County based upon finding 6 extra votes for Vice President Gore in heavy Democrat precincts, correct?
That's correct.
All right, now, focused on that again, who cast the 2 votes on the board against doing a full manual recount?
Supervisor Leahy and Judge Miriam Lair.
And who cast the vote against that and instead wanted to go ahead with a full manual recount of more than 600 ballots in Dade County?
County Court Judge King.
The Democrat.
Yes.
All right, sir. Now, if you would, let's turn to Exhibit 61. And, Your Honor, I hope a copy was given to you. If not, I have an extra copy for the court. Right. No, you're all right. Thanks. May I hand up to Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Do you need that one? Okay. May I hand this one to the court? I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Spencer, will you look on page 350 of this transcript?
Yes, sir, I have.
What page, counsel?
350, Your Honor. It may take you a moment, and we'll wait.
Go ahead.
All right. Sir, do you see page 350, line 22 of this transcript?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. Would you start reading first at line 22, where it says Judge King is the speaker, through the end of his speech on 351 on line 5?
Certainly. This is Judge King speaking. Thank you very much, Mr. Greenberg. At this time, I will exercise again my priority as chairman, and I will ask that Mr. David Leahy cast a vote with respect to the limited 10,750 vote recount or any precinct limitation that would be reasonably found by the board to be applicable in this case.
All right, now stop there, and let's skip down a little bit because there's a colloquy between Mr. Martinez, the Republican representative, and Judge King. And if you'll go down to line 16 on page 351 and pick up and read there for quite a while, and I'll stop you when it's necessary, and read slowly so that everyone can hear you.
Certainly. This is Mr. Leahy speaking. I don't believe that the changes that I saw in votes, when you look at the number of initial votes that were counted, when you look at the disproportionate number of votes that Vice President got in those 3 precincts in the recount compared to the number of votes which Governor Bush got after the initial count and after the recount, warrants us to go any further. I believe that what we saw is that truly there was no error in the tabulation system. There are 6 instances where the tabulation equipment, due to improperly punched ballots, did not record the vote as we saw it when we hand counted. I just do not believe, let me state it another way. I have a lot of experience with this system. I've been here since '74 in the election process. I've been with this particular system since '78. I've been involved in numerous recounts and several hand counts. Based on that experience, it would be my belief that if you counted every ballot by hand in the county, that you would get an equal, proportional share of increased votes for both candidates. I just do not believe that anything I've seen tonight warrants us to proceed either with an examination of the undercounted votes or calls for a manual recount, so my vote is no.
Keep reading, sir.
Judge King now speaks. That you, Mr. Leahy, Judge Lair. Now Judge Lair speaks. I'm going to concur with Mr. Leahy. My vote is no for a recount. And then Judge King speaks. At this time, the chairman votes yes.
All right, sir. If you will skip to the bottom of page 353 and start with line 23.
Yes, sir.
Where it says at this time.
Yes, this is still Judge King speaking. At this time, a majority of the canvassing board has decided that there will be no further hand recounts in the presidential election of November 2000.
All right, sir. And this occurred on what date?
On the 14th of November, year 2000.
Okay. I'd like to now turn to November 17. On November 17, sir, did the Dade County Canvassing Board, County Judge King, Judge Lair, and Mr. Leahy again take up the question of whether to conduct a full manual recount?
Yes, sir.
Who brought that idea up?
My recollection is that on the 15th of November, the Democratic Party, represented by Steve Zack, Joe Geller, Kendall Coffey, filed a motion for reconsideration before the Canvassing Board, and that motion was then set down for hearing on November the 17th.
All right, sir. I think, did November 17 on this issue kind of have two parts, or what? Did two different things happen with respect to this issue on November 17? Well, first, let me start this way. Let me ask you, at this November 17 hearing, was any new evidence brought forward or offered by the Democratic Party or anybody else on this same question that had been considered on November 14 as to whether the Canvassing Board should go from a 3-precinct manual recount to a recount of more than 600 other precincts as well?
No, sir.
Was there just legal argument?
Yes, sir. And policy argument.
Policy argument. All right. What was the decision of the Canvassing Board regarding going from a 3-precinct manual recount to fully recounting by hand all 600-plus precincts in Miami-Dade County?
My recollection is that this time there was also a majority vote, but this time it was to conduct the manual recount.
Well, sir, do you recall that? Let me show you first Plaintiff's Exhibit 23. Sorry, Your Honor. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Ready.
And on the way, and I give you a copy of this. It's already in evidence.
There's an extra copy of that.
All right, sir, would you take a look? And do you believe this bears you out that they did, in fact, decide on that day, contrary to their prior decision on November 14, that they would go forward?
That is correct.
And was it with a full manual recount, or was it just to count some of the remaining precincts?
It was for a full manual recount.
All right. And
Of the entire Dade County area.
you said the vote was 2-1?
Yes.
Who was the one person who voted against doing this?
David Leahy.
And was he the professional supervisor of elections for that county at the time he voted not to do this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Was there another matter